You want to challenge humans to what now? Ambassador Zixtal's facial tentacles curled in what his species considered the equivalent of a raised eyebrow. The massive Cronaxian warrior before him shifted uncomfortably, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light of the station's artificial sun. A strength competition, General Krathos repeated, mandibles clicking with barely contained excitement. The Cronaxian Empire has dominated every physical contest in the known galaxy for the past 3,000 cycles. These humans, they dare to claim they can match us. The ambassador's holopad chimed with yet another diplomatic incident report involving humans. He didn't even need to read it. Probably another accidental demonstration of human strength that ended with broken furniture, structural damage, or both. General, Zixtal began carefully, choosing his words with the diplomatic precision that had kept his species from being conquered by the Cronaxians. Perhaps we should discuss this over some refreshments. I have an excellent vintage of fermented plasma that— No! I demand satisfaction. These primitive bipeds mock us with their claims. Kurthak's crystalline fists slammed down on the ambassador's desk, leaving shallow impressions in the supposedly indestructible quantum-locked alloy. Zixtal sighed internally. He'd just had that desk replaced after the last human delegation's visit. Very well. As the neutral party in this sector, I will arrange the competition. But I warn you, humans are unusual. Ha! They're soft-bodied creatures who evolved on a measly 1.1G world. We Cronaxians came from a 3.4G death planet where the very atmosphere tries to crush you. Kurthak's pride was practically visible as an aura around his towering form. They're from Earth, actually. Gravity is only part of their particular evolution. Zixtal pulled up the human biological database, trying one last time to discourage this madness. You see, their planet's characteristics led to some rather unique— Enough! Set up the challenge. 1 month from now on the neutral station. Our strongest versus their strongest. With that declaration, Krathos stormed out, his crystalline form leaving tiny cracks in the floor with each thunderous step. Zixtal waited until the general was well out of earshot before activating his comm unit. Get me the human embassy. And better order a new desk. Several new desks, actually. We're going to need them. Sarah Chen, Earth's official strongwoman representative, couldn't stop grinning as she read the challenge parameters. So let me get this straight. They want to compete in raw strength tests? No tech assistance? No power armor? Just pure biological capability? That's correct, Ms. Chen. Ambassador Williams nodded, his own expression caught between amusement and concern. The Cronaxians are quite confident in their natural abilities. They evolved on a high-gravity world with an atmosphere that would crush most species. Sweet. I've been looking for a good workout partner. Sarah cracked her knuckles, the sound remarkably similar to small arms fire. When do we start? Partner? Ms. Chen, this is a formal diplomatic— Williams trailed off as Sarah casually lifted her end of the solid oak conference table to retrieve a dropped stylus, with one hand, while drinking coffee with the other. Sorry, did you say something? She set the table down gently, only 2 of its legs cracked this time. Williams pinched the bridge of his nose. Never mind, the competition is in 3 weeks at the neutral zone station. Please try not to break anything important before then, or during, or after. No promises. Sarah's cheerful reply did nothing to ease his growing headache. News of the upcoming competition spread through the galactic community like a quantum virus through unprotected data networks. Betting pools emerged in every major spaceport. The Cronaxians naturally were heavily favored. Did you see the odds they're giving humans? Lieutenant Rodriguez laughed, showing his datapad to Sarah as they traveled to the station. 10,000 to 1 against us! Ooh, think I can convince them to let me place a bet? Sarah was doing her usual light workout, juggling 3 solid titanium spheres that were originally meant to be containment unit cores. Pretty sure that's against regulations, Rodriguez replied, wincing as one of the spheres got too close to the ship's hull. Also, please don't puncture our ride. Spacing paperwork is a nightmare. Spoil sport. She caught all 3 spheres in one fluid motion, barely registering their combined mass of several hundred kilos. At least tell me we can record this? My lifting club back home will never believe it otherwise. The entire thing will be broadcast across 17 sectors. No pressure. Sarah's grin turned predatory. Perfect. The neutral station's main arena was packed beyond capacity. Species from across the galaxy had come to witness what many were calling the Great Folly. Though whether they meant the humans' acceptance or the Cronaxians' challenge was a matter of heated debate. General Krathos entered first, his crystalline form modified for maximum density. He looked like a walking diamond mountain, each step leaving visible indentations in the reinforced floor. "Behold!" The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. "The champion of the Chronaxian Empire, evolved in the crushing gravity of Chronax Prime, where the very air would reduce most species to paste. Winner of 3,000 consecutive strength competitions." The crowd roared. Krathos raised his arms in triumph, the motion sending subtle shockwaves through the nearby seats. And his challenger. There was a distinct pause, followed by the sound of the announcer checking his notes. "Sarah Chen, of Earth?" Sarah walked out wearing standard-issue workout clothes and a bright smile, waving to the crowd like she was at a local gym meet. The contrast between her appearance and Krathos' impressive form couldn't have been more stark. "Is this some kind of joke?" Krathos' voice rumbled through the arena. "This is their champion? Oh good, you can trash talk." Sarah's smile widened. "This is gonna be fun." The first event was a classic, lifting strength. A series of increasingly massive weights would be added to a specially reinforced bar until one competitor could no longer lift it. Krathos went first, easily hoisting weights that could anchor small spacecraft. The crowd cheered with each successful lift, the betting odds shifting even further in his favor. Then it was Sarah's turn. Could you add a few more plates?" she asked after lifting Krathos' maximum with visible ease. "This is usually my warm-up weight." The silence in the arena was deafening. What followed would later be described in historical texts as the day physical laws filed for unemployment. Sarah not only matched, but exceeded every one of Krathos' lifts, chatting casually throughout as if she were discussing the weather. How is this possible?" Krathos demanded after watching her military press a load that could have served as a building foundation. "Your world's gravity." "Oh, that?" Sarah set down the weights carefully. She'd promised to minimize structural damage after all. "Yeah, Earth's gravity isn't that special, but you know what is? Having to evolve on a death world where literally everything else is trying to kill you, all the time, for millions of years." She stretched, several nearby seismographs registering the movement. "Like, sure, your atmosphere is crushy and all, but did you have to dodge hyper-carnivores while gathering food? Develop throwing skills accurate enough to hunt prey from safe distances? Build enough muscle to both fight and flee from apex predators? Because let me tell you, that makes for some interesting evolutionary pressure." Krathos' crystalline form seemed to pale slightly. But our biological density is super impressive." Sarah nodded enthusiastically. "Really, your people are amazingly strong. It's just, well, humans kind of had to become stronger than we had any right to be. It was either that or die horribly to any of about 1,000,000 different threats." She paused thoughtfully. "Also, we're really, really stubborn. Like our ancestors literally chased prey until it died of exhaustion. Who does that? We do, apparently." The next events went similarly. Krathos' impressive jumping ability was matched by Sarah's casual demonstration of human parkour. His crushing grip strength met its match in her rock-climbing hobby. His endurance faltered long before her light jog showed any signs of slowing. By the final event, a good old-fashioned arm wrestling match, the betting agencies had suspended all wagering, and several physical scientists were demanding their universities revoke their degrees. "Good match." Sarah helped Krathos up after their contest, which had ended with a new crack in the station's foundation. "You're seriously strong. We should train together sometime. I've been looking for a spotter who can actually hold the weights." Krathos, to his credit, took the defeat with surprising grace. "I would be honored. Though perhaps we should discuss this over that fermented plasma Ambassador Zixtal mentioned. I find myself in need of a drink." "Oh, neat. Space alcohol. I've always wondered how that works with your crystalline biology. Also, fair warning, human alcohol tolerance is kind of ridiculous too. Something about our livers being stupidly efficient." As the unlikely pair headed off to the station's bar, which immediately began reinforcing its furniture, Ambassador Zixtal turned to his human counterpart. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" Williams shrugged. "We tried to warn everyone about Earth's evolutionary history. Not our fault nobody believed that a bunch of soft-bodied primates could be that strong." "You realize this changes everything? The political implications alone." "Probably for the better," Williams interrupted, watching Sarah accidentally crush another chair while enthusiastically explaining human sports to Krathos. "Nothing builds diplomatic relations quite like shared workout sessions and protein shake recipes. Speaking of which, Zixtal's facial tentacles twitched in what might have been amusement. I believe you humans have a saying about bros who lift together? Oh God. Williams dropped his head into his hands. Please tell me you didn't just make a lifting pun. I'm merely trying to raise the diplomatic bar. The sound of Williams' groan was nearly drowned out by the crash of another piece of furniture meeting its end at the hands of enthusiastic interspecies bonding. 3 months later, the Galactic Council received an unusual joint petition from Earth and Kronax Prime. The request? Funding for the first interspecies strength training center, complete with reinforced equipment rated for ridiculous amounts of weight, and an entire wing dedicated to protein shake experimentation. The petition was approved in record time, if only to prevent Sarah and Kurthak from demonstrating their new cooperative lifting techniques in person. And if the galaxy's insurance companies quietly added a new clause specifically covering human-related strength incidents, well, that was just good business sense. After all, as Sarah liked to say between sets of impossible weights, in space, no one can hear you lift, but they can definitely see you flex. 6 months later, the newly opened Interspecies Strength Training Center, ISTC, was everything its founders had hoped for and more. The reinforced walls gleamed with an alloy specifically designed to withstand enthusiastic training sessions, and the equipment bore weight ratings that made most engineers question their career choices. And this, Sarah explained to a group of wide-eyed alien visitors, is what we call a deadlift platform, though we had to rename it the Anti-Grav Assist Platform after that incident with the station's artificial gravity last week. Kurthak, now sporting several new crystalline growth patterns that suspiciously resembled human muscle definition, nodded sagely. The structural integrity team only had minor panic attacks this time. I consider that progress. The ISTC had become something of a diplomatic marvel. Species that had previously avoided each other were now spotting weights together, sharing protein shake recipes, with appropriate biochemical modifications, and engaging in what Sarah had dubbed swoleship, friendship through shared gains. Remember when the Vexarians thought they couldn't build muscle because they're technically sentient gas clouds? Sarah grinned, watching a fluorescent purple cloud successfully complete a set of modified pull-ups. Turns out they just needed the right motivation and some creative equipment design. Indeed. Kurthak's crystalline form sparkled with pride. Though perhaps we should have anticipated the registration rush after you demonstrated that gravity manipulation technique. The waiting list is now longer than a solar cycle. The technique in question had been another classic case of humans doing what humans do best, finding innovative ways to lift heavy things. Sarah had discovered that by carefully calculating momentum and gravitational fields, she could create a workout that actually strengthened a being's ability to manipulate their own mass in various gravity conditions. The scientific papers alone had crashed 3 different academic networks. Speaking of unexpected developments, Sarah nodded toward a corner where a group of Kronaxian warriors were enthusiastically learning human yoga, their crystalline forms bending in ways that defied several laws of mineralogy. How's the new cultural exchange program going? Kurthak's mandibles clicked in what had become his version of a chuckle. The High Council is still processing the fact that human flexibility training has improved our combat efficiency by 47%, though I believe they were more surprised by the concept of rest days and proper form. You mean throwing massive weights around with reckless abandon isn't the best training method? Shocking. Sarah's sarcasm was interrupted by a notification on her holopad. Oh hey, the new equipment just cleared customs. Want to help me test it? The last time you said that, we accidentally created a temporary black hole. That was one time, and it was tiny. Besides, the physics department got 3 new research papers out of it. Before Kurthak could respond, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A delegation of hive mind collective drones was attempting to register for membership, their synchronized movements making the check-in process look like an elaborate dance. We wish to engage in the activity designated as Getting Swole, the drones announced in perfect unison. Our research indicates this will improve our efficiency by approximately 23.76%. Sarah's face lit up with the kind of enthusiasm that usually preceded property damage. Oh, this is going to be amazing. Think about it. A literal hive mind doing synchronized lifting. The choreography possibilities alone. Kurthak quickly sent a warning message to the structural integrity team. They'd learned to stay on standby whenever Sarah got that particular gleam in her eye. Perhaps we should start them with something basic, he suggested, hoping to prevent another incident like the great protein shake explosion of last month. The fundamentals of form and... already on it. Sarah was rapidly sketching out what appeared to be plans for a combination of CrossFit and interpretive dance, adapted for multiple synchronized bodies. We'll call it Hive 5, the ultimate colony workout. As Krathos watched his friend enthusiastically explain clean and jerk techniques to the fascinated drones, he couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed. The Chronaxian Empire, once known only for its military might, was now famous across the galaxy for pioneering crystal-based yoga and hosting interspecies powerlifting competitions. By the way, Sarah called out, her attention briefly diverted from the hive mind's impromptu fitness consultation. Don't forget about tomorrow's special event. Yes, the professional wrestling exhibition she had organized. Krathos was still unsure about the concept of choreographed combat as entertainment, but he had to admit the costume she'd designed for him, complete with championship belt and dramatic entrance music, was quite impressive. I still say the Crystal Crusher is an overly dramatic name, he rumbled, though his mandibles clicked in amusement. Says the guy who spent 3 hours practicing his entrance pose in the mirror yesterday. Sarah turned back to the hive mind drones, who were now attempting to recreate a basic squat with surprisingly good form. Trust me, once they see you do a crystalline suplex, you'll be the most popular trainer in 3 sectors. The structural integrity team, monitoring this conversation through the security feeds, quietly began updating their insurance policies. Again, but that was life at the ISTC, where the only thing stronger than the reinforced walls was the bonds being forged between species, one ridiculous lift at a time. And if the occasional temporary black hole or gravity anomaly occurred, well, as Sarah liked to say, no pain, no gain, no localized violations of physics. The Galactic Games. You want to host what? Ambassador Williams felt a familiar headache building. Whenever Sarah Chen walked into his office with that particular smile, property damage and diplomatic incidents weren't far behind. The first annual Galactic Strength Games. Sarah was practically bouncing, which caused several sensor alarms to trigger. We've got representatives from 27 different species now, all training together at the ISTC. Krathos and I thought, oh no. Williams slumped in his chair. Both of you are planning this? Actually, it was the hive mind's idea. Their synchronized lifting routines have gotten really impressive, and they suggested we turn it into a proper competition, but with, categories that play to each species' unique strengths. Williams eyed the structural damage reports on his desk. All from the ISTC's normal operations. And where exactly would we hold such an event? The insurance companies already have a dedicated human Chronaxian activity department. Sarah's grin widened. That's the best part. The Void Dancers offered to host it in their Quantum Realm Stadium. You know, the one that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously? That way, if anything goes wrong, the damage is spread across parallel realities. That is not as reassuring as you seem to think it is. Come on! Sarah pulled up a holo presentation that showed various alien species engaging in modified versions of human sports. Look at what we've already accomplished. The Gaseous Collective has revolutionized aerial gymnastics. The Silicon Hive's synchronized powerlifting could be an Olympic sport. And don't even get me started on what happened when we introduced the energy beings to parkour. Williams remembered. The resulting light show had been visible from 3 star systems away. Plus, Sarah continued, her expression turning serious, think about the diplomatic benefits. We've got species working together who previously couldn't be in the same solar system without starting a war. Last week, a Chronaxian crystal yoga session prevented an interstellar trade dispute. She had a point. The ISTC had become more than just a gym. It was a neutral ground where ancient rivalries were forgotten in favor of spotting weights and sharing workout tips. Fine, Williams sighed, already drafting his resignation letter in his head. But we need safety protocols, lots of them. And maybe some kind of interdimensional insurance? Already handled. The Void Dancers say their quantum probability matrices can contain any potential incidents. Sarah paused. Well, most incidents. Like, at least 60% of them. In this dimension, anyway. Before Williams could process the implications of that statement, his office door chimed. Krathos entered, ducking his crystalline form under the reinforced frame, followed by what appeared to be a sentient aurora borealis wearing workout gear. Ah, good! You're both here! Krathos's mandibles clicked excitedly. Ambassador, may I introduce High Choreographers Verks of the Energy Collective? They have some fascinating ideas about combining their plasma state athletics with human CrossFit principles. The aurora borealis flickered in what might have been greeting or might have been the prelude to a fusion reaction. Williams was afraid to ask which. "We have developed a new training protocol." Zverk's voice resonated at a frequency that made Williams' teeth vibrate. "By applying human intensity principles to our natural plasma state, we can achieve what your species calls maximum gains, while minimizing the risk of accidental solar flares." The risk of accidental what? Oh, that reminds me. Sarah perked up. "We should probably mention the small fusion reactor we're installing in the ISTC's basement. The Energy Collective needs it for their hot yoga sessions." Williams stared at his desk drawer, wondering if he had enough antacids to deal with this conversation. "It's perfectly safe," Krathos assured him. "The containment field is rated for at least twice the output of a small star, and the Void Dancers helped design the quantum shielding, so any leaks would just create temporary parallel universes. Besides," Sarah added cheerfully, "we need it for the new protein shake bar too. Turns out some species prefer their supplements at plasma temperatures." The aurora borealis pulsed in what was definitely enthusiasm. "We have already developed several new flavors, though perhaps we should warn your maintenance staff about the slightly radioactive aftertaste." Williams raised a hand, stopping what was sure to be an explanation he didn't want to hear. Just tell me one thing. How likely is it that these galactic games will accidentally create a new form of physics?" Sarah, Kurthak, and the Living Light Show exchanged glances. "Define new form of physics," Sarah said carefully. "Because technically what we did last week with the quantum kettlebells already—" "Never mind, I don't want to know." Williams pulled up the necessary forms on his holopad. "I'll approve the games on one condition. Someone else has to explain it to the science division. I'm still getting complaints about the time dilation effects from your last innovative workout session." Sarah's face lit up with the kind of joy that usually preceded evacuation orders. "Deal. Though you might want to order some extra reinforcement for the Quantum Realm Stadium. I've been working with the Silicon Hive on a new technique we're calling the Big Bang Clean and Jerk." As the strange group left his office, Sarah chatting animatedly about workout plans, Krathos taking notes on a crystal tablet, and the living aurora borealis occasionally causing small electromagnetic disturbances, Williams sent a message to his secretary. "Cancel my meetings for the next month, and find out if our insurance covers alternate dimensions. We're going to need it." The Galactic Games were coming, and the universe would never be quite the same, or quite as structurally stable. Let the games begin! The Void Dancers' Quantum Realm Stadium was a site that defied conventional physics, much like most things involving the ISTC these days. Its structure seemed to exist in several places at once, with corridors that led everywhere and nowhere, and viewing areas that somehow always had the best seat in the house, regardless of where you sat. "Okay, final equipment check." Sarah was in her element, directing traffic as competitors from across the galaxy arrived through various dimensional portals, wormholes, and in one case what appeared to be a temporally displaced elevator. "Energy beings, your plasma containment fields are in the blue section. Yes, the one that's partially out of phase with reality. Silicon Hive, your synchronized lifting platform is in quantum superposition near the main arena. And someone please help the gaseous collective find their lockers. They keep diffusing through the wrong walls." Kurthak, now sporting a crystal growth pattern that resembled a referee's uniform, approached with a concerned click of his mandibles. "We may have a small problem with the Void Dancers' probability matrices. They're saying the chance of accidentally creating a new universe during the games is non-zero." "Isn't it always non-zero when we work out?" Sarah was distracted by a group of energy beings practicing their plasma state calisthenics routine, creating small auroras in their wake. "Besides, last time we only made a pocket dimension and it collapsed after a few hours." "True, but—" Kurthak was interrupted by a commotion near the quantum kettlebell rack. A delegation from a newly discovered species had arrived. The quantum uncertainty engineers, beings who existed in a state of probability rather than fixed matter. Their application to compete had been a bit of a challenge, mainly because no one could be sure if they had actually submitted one until it was observed. "We wish to participate in the lifting events." Their spokesperson wavered in and out of definite existence. "Though we're unsure if we can lift weights while remaining in a probability wave state." Sarah's eyes lit up with that familiar gleam of impending physics violations. "Oh, this is perfect. We can combine your quantum uncertainty with the Void Dancer's probability matrices. Think about it. Schrodinger's clean and jerk." Kurthak quickly sent a warning to the reality stabilization team. They'd learned to stay alert whenever Sarah started combining training principles with quantum mechanics. The stadium was rapidly filling with spectators from across the galaxy. The viewing areas bent pleasantly around the laws of space-time, allowing everyone a perfect view of the competition floor, which was itself a marvel of engineering, designed to adapt to each species' unique requirements. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of indeterminate or fluctuating states, the announcer's voice resonated through multiple dimensions simultaneously. Welcome to the first annual Galactic Games. The opening ceremony was a spectacular display of interspecies cooperation. The Silicon Hive performed a mesmerizing routine of synchronized crystalline formations, while the energy beings created a living light show that made Aurora Borealis look like a desk lamp. The gaseous collective demonstrated their mastery of aerial gymnastics, forming complex molecular patterns that had several watching scientists frantically taking notes. First up, the announcement continued. The mixed state clean and jerk. Competitors will attempt to lift weights that may or may not exist until observed, while maintaining proper form across at least 3 dimensions. Sarah, watching from the coaching area, couldn't help but grin as a quantum uncertainty engineer approached the platform. The weights flickered between states of matter and probability, while the lifter themselves seemed to exist in multiple positions simultaneously. Remember, she called out, keep your quantum superposition tight and your probability wave engaged throughout the movement. The lift itself was interesting. Several physics professors in the audience were seen quietly tearing up their textbooks, as the quantum engineer appeared to lift every possible weight at once, while technically lifting nothing at all. Is that a legal lift? Krathos asked, squinting at the scoreboard which was displaying numbers and base systems that hadn't been invented yet. According to the Void Dancer's judging matrix, it both is and isn't, Sarah replied cheerfully. We're giving them half points in this dimension and full points in the adjacent probability space. The games continued with increasingly spectacular events. The energy being's plasma state gymnastics routine temporarily created a new spectrum of visible light. The Silicon Hive's group performance somehow proved 3 new mathematical theorems through interpretive crystal growth. And the gaseous collective's demonstration of zero-gravity yoga led to the accidental discovery of 2 new states of matter. But the highlight of the day came during the freestyle event, when a human Chronaxian duo demonstrated their revolutionary quantum crystal fusion lift technique. Sarah and Krathos had spent months perfecting it, combining crystal resonance patterns with human biomechanics and just a touch of dimensional uncertainty. The result was, well, the physics department was still arguing about what exactly the result was, but it looked spectacular and only created 3 temporary parallel universes in the process. You know, Sarah commented, as they watched a team of reality stabilization engineers trying to merge 2 nearly identical timelines that had split during the last event. I think we might be onto something here. Sports really are a universal language. Krathos nodded, his crystalline form reflecting the quantum fluctuations from the nearby probability field. Indeed. Though perhaps next time we should warn the engineering division about the possibility of spontaneous dimension splitting before the event, not during. Where's the fun in that? Sarah was already sketching plans for what looked suspiciously like a combination of Olympic weightlifting and quantum tunneling. Besides, think about the possibilities for the next games. I've been working with the Void Dancers on a concept we're calling trans-dimensional CrossFit. The structural integrity team, listening through their reality-stabilized communications system, quietly began updating their resumes. Some of them were considering careers in less stressful fields like experimental wormhole navigation or black hole containment. But that was the beauty of the Galactic Games, where the only certainty was uncertainty, and the only limit was the number of dimensions you could deadlift in. As Sarah liked to say, in space, no one can hear you lift, but they can definitely see the quantum probability waves you generate. The aftermath, and other dimensional anomalies. Ambassador Williams stared at the post-games report on his desk, occasionally glancing at the window where reality seemed to hiccup every few minutes, an after effect of what the scientists were calling excessive probability manipulation in a confined space-time locale. So, he began, addressing the unusual group assembled in his office. Would anyone like to explain why I'm getting incident reports from 3 different dimensions, including one that apparently doesn't exist yet? Sarah, Krathos, and a slightly fuzzy representation of a Void Dancer sat, or in the Void Dancer's case existed in a state of quantum uncertainty before him. Behind them, a holographic projection showed ongoing cleanup efforts at the stadium, where reality restoration teams were trying to merge several overlapping timelines back into a coherent whole. Technically, Sarah began with what Williams had come to recognize as her, but it was for science voice. Most of those incidents are from probability shadows that will resolve themselves within a few cosmic cycles. The temporal echoes are totally normal for this kind of multidimensional event. Normal? Williams picked up one report. The Silicon Hive's crystal formation routine created a theorem so complex it gained sentience and applied for citizenship. Oh, that's actually pretty exciting, Sarah beamed. We're calling it Theorem X. It's already revolutionizing our understanding of quantum biomechanics, and it's really good at spotting during heavy lifts. Krathos' mandibles clicked in agreement. The theorem has shown remarkable aptitude for calculating optimal lifting trajectories across probability spaces, though we did have to ask it to stop trying to prove the existence of parallel workout dimensions during rest periods. The Void Dancer, who appeared to be simultaneously nodding and shaking their head, contributed a series of geometric patterns that translated roughly to: the probability matrices are still settling, but our calculations show a 73.6% chance that all duplicate realities will reintegrate within the standard margin of quantum error. The remaining 26.4% might spawn a few pocket universes, but they should be relatively self-contained. Relatively self-contained, Williams repeated flatly. Like the one currently manifesting in the cafeteria? That's more of a temporary probability bubble, Sarah explained. And hey, it's actually improved the food. Turns out quantum uncertainty makes the mystery meat much more palatable. Before Williams could respond, his office door chimed. A member of the quantum uncertainty engineers phased through the wall, their form flickering between states of definite existence. Apologies for the intrusion, they wavered, but we've made an interesting discovery during our post-games analysis. It seems the combined quantum resonance from all the lifting events has created a persistent enhancement field. Athletes training within its influence are experiencing simultaneous gains across multiple probability states. Sarah's eyes lit up with that familiar property damage incoming gleam. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? If you're thinking about combining this effect with the Silicon Hive's crystalline growth techniques and the energy being's plasma state training methods, then no, Williams interjected quickly. Absolutely not. We're still dealing with the last set of innovations. But think about the possibilities. Sarah was already pulling up holographic training diagrams that somehow existed in more dimensions than should be possible. We could create a whole new training methodology. Quantum progressive overload, multi-dimensional muscle confusion, probability-enhanced periodization. Krathos, who had been quietly taking notes on his crystal tablet, looked up. The structural integrity team is asking if they should begin evacuation procedures now, or wait until after we start testing the new protocols. Neither. Williams stood, trying to project authority despite the fact that reality was doing that hiccuping thing again. We need to stabilize the current situation before... He was interrupted by a distant boom, followed by what sounded like reality itself trying to clear its throat. Oh, that'll be the energy beings testing their new plasma state deadlift technique, Sarah said casually. They found out they can temporarily exist in a superheated quantum state while lifting, which technically allows them to generate infinite force across multiple probability spaces. Though they're still working on controlling the resulting fusion reactions, Krathos added. The good news is we've nearly perfected the containment fields. Nearly? Williams felt his headache evolving into new and exciting forms of pain. The Void Dancer's geometric patterns shifted into what might have been a shrug. The quantum probability matrices suggest a mere 17.3% chance of accidental dimension splitting during future training sessions. Much better than our initial projections. Before Williams could inquire about those initial projections, another boom echoed through the station, this one accompanied by a brief moment where everyone experienced all possible versions of themselves simultaneously. That would be the Silicon Hive, Sarah explained, seemingly unfazed by temporarily existing in quantum superposition. They're incorporating Theorem X's suggestions into their crystal growth patterns. Did you know you can use crystalline resonance to create temporary pockets of altered physics? Makes for a great superset technique. Although, Krathos added thoughtfully, we should probably warn them about the time dilation effects. Some of their athletes have been experiencing their workouts for several subjective years in the span of a single session. But think of the gains! Sarah's enthusiasm was practically warping probability fields on its own. We're revolutionizing not just fitness, but the fundamental nature of reality itself. The next Galactic Games are going to be amazing. William sat back down heavily, watching as a small quantum anomaly turned his coffee into a liquid that existed in a state of both maximum and minimum entropy simultaneously. "The next games?" he asked weakly. "Oh yeah." Sarah pulled up another set of holographic plans, these ones seemingly extending into dimensions that hurt to look at. "We're thinking of adding new events, trans-dimensional parkour, quantum state gymnastics, probability field powerlifting. Oh, and the gaseous collective wants to demonstrate their new technique for converting kinetic energy into temporary pocket universes." The Void Dancer's patterns formed what was definitely an expression of excitement. "Our preliminary calculations suggest a 82.7% chance of creating at least one stable new form of physics during the competition, most of which should be compatible with existing reality. Mostly." Williams looked at his quantum-uncertain coffee, then at the window where reality was still having hiccups, then back at the eager faces and patterns and probability fields before him. Just promise me one thing," he sighed. "Try to keep the number of accidental universe creations to a minimum this time. The paperwork for registering new dimensions is becoming a bit excessive." "No promises," Sarah grinned. "But hey, look on the bright side. Thanks to the quantum probability fields, there's a version of you in some dimension that doesn't have to deal with any of this." Somehow, that wasn't as comforting as she seemed to think it was. To be continued in the multidimensional training revolution.